Hey guys, welcome back to another Subnautica video. Okay, we're gonna go
made
to
this joke. You can't make it twice.
No, if it wasn't funny the first time, it's gonna be funny the second time. Come on, this is basic knowledge.
Rule of thirds, you bozos.
Anyways, welcome back to another Sons of Liberty episode, guys. I'm here with my two dumb co-hosts, KYKA and King Chao. They don't get a self-intro because fuck them. But I'm your host with the most, Sunnyhawkeye.
Even though you talk the least.
The least.
Tough scene.
I'm a dirty D2 casual, also known as KYKA, and I play a lot of Destiny 2 because I have a very successful life and career, as you could see.
And I am a failed, washed-up YouTuber with a dead Discord server. Season 2 is never coming out. That is a promise.
You know it. At this Discord server.
You hear it. How about you see it? It's King Chao back with another one.
What about this Discord server? This Discord server's popping.
This Discord server is private. None of you are ever getting in.
Yeah, unless we really like you.
I don't know. Every time we've added someone, there's been some drama, so I don't know if it counts.
I mean, we'll give it a day for this one.
Maybe
Anyways,
2 days.
Let's go straight into our, podcast here. KYKA, would you like to introduce our topic, please?
As per usual.
Yeah, so our first topic is January 6th, and obviously...
let's go. We're a little, when you see it's going to be a little bit late to the party, but don't worry. All I can promise is on the day, it was plenty fun.
I mean, I'm shedding a tear because this is so emotional right now, thinking of January 6th. Yeah, I know, it's super emotional. And Democrats, they feel the same way about January 6th, particularly Joe Biden.
I mean, maybe shedding a tear is a bad example. Maybe instead of extreme sadness, it's extreme rage. Rage against the Republican Party.
They didn't steal anything. They didn't do it right.
And that's the whole issue with all of this, right? So,
that relatable gamer moment when Republicans took taking a political stand, literally.
Yeah, I mean, oof. But anyways, so a lot of the things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, his vice president, have been tweeting and saying and just speaking out about on January 6th has been very it's not very good for, I feel like, discourse in this country. Even though I feel like they have the opposite intentions, it feels like, from my perspective as being a Republican, that January 6th will be, used against Republicans for literally forever.
Right.
Because this was like an event that happened where obviously the party of law and order had a little bit of an oopsie, and even though it was a very small group of people, of radicals that did this horrible act, and literally everyone in the party condemns the actions of these very few individuals, Democrats are still going to hold it against Republicans, and you could see it in tweets like in Joe Biden's, and I think a good one to highlight. Joe Biden said on January 6th, of course, at 6:22 a.m., so man was out of his bed especially early. Which is a first for Joe Biden.
Of course.
Well, I mean, yeah. Anyways, he said last year, for the first time in our history, a president who just lost an election tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power as a violent mob breached the Capitol, but they failed. And on this day of remembrance, we must make sure that such an attack never happens again. Now, one little quick thing to point out in this tweet, everything is correct, okay? Except one little thing. He said, a president who just lost an election tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. How am I forgetting something in January 6th?
Okay.
I don't remember Trump preventing the peaceful transfer of power. I remember a lot of bozos entering the Capitol and preventing the transfer of power. I don't know what Trump really, if he did anything, and that's.
I saw Trump. I saw that he was wearing that bear skin.
I mean, obviously Trump did it because Trump's literally Hitler now. But
exactly.
I think we actually did cover this around the time when this was happening last year, that's how long we've been around you. It's been our year anniversary. And around, one of our earlier episodes, we were talking about January 6th. And the thing was, Trump did not ask for this to happen.
Yes.
Now, in all fairness, he did speak in pretty vague terms. And if you were unhinged enough to actually go through with this, you could maybe infer Trump's words as a call to action. But it wasn't a call to action to fucking storm the Capitol building. And, I kind of feel like Republicans at the time didn't really see any other really viable options as to how to actually make change, because it had to be something that everyone could do and everyone could agree upon. It's kind of like that Area 51 thing where a bunch of Facebook people band together 1 September to storm Area 51 to quote unquote see dead aliens. The reason why that caught on was just because it was accessible and it was popular. That's how these things work. You have to get a lot of people on your side and by your back in order to actually pull off a stunt like raiding the Capitol building without getting immediately thrown in jail.
Right, and I think an important thing to mention is even though Trump, his language didn't help his case, but it also doesn't mean that Trump incited an insurrection at the Capitol. By that logic, we would have to assume that because Bernie Sanders says that, Republicans are killing grandmas because they don't support universal basic health care, that he was responsible for the 2017 congressional baseball shooting where a person who was of the left said that Republicans are killing grandmas and shot 6 Republicans at the baseball game. I don't think any of us would say that is Bernie Sanders' fault. We're not saying Bernie Sanders told this guy to shoot up some Republicans.
Right.
But we're also not saying that, his language also didn't help. Yeah. And that's just the nature of politics,
Bernie Sanders was in that situation a completely neutral actor. It was not him that was sort of responsible or complacent necessarily in this situation. It was his ideas. And his
supporter.
Yeah, and his ideas were twisted by his supporters, and that's how you end up with, the shooting. And that's how you end up with the Capitol riot. It's that you took what Trump said, and you filter it through many different people's different interpretations, and you end up with possibly a call to action that if something is not done, America will fall into, the hands of the left, which arguably isn't too far from the truth. But
it's like a telephone game, right?
Yeah, it's a game of telephone.
It's exactly what it is. Kind of stupid.
It's kind of funny because the shooting of the baseball game got not nearly as much coverage as the fucking raid of the Capitol, even though only 1 or 2 people died, and it wasn't even the cause of the raid. It was because of medical issues.
Yeah.
Wicked.
And I think it was actually I think it was 4 people who died.
Was it full?
Yeah, it was 4.
But I know 6 definitely got injured. Something 6 injured.
What I specifically remember was 3 people who died weren't even police. They were the rioters themselves, and there was 1 cop, I believe, who died, and I don't know why.
Yeah, 1 cop, and he died of his own medical issues.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Governor DeSantis really worded this perfectly. The left will always not glamour, but make what the right does so much more worse than it actually is.
Yeah, it is front and center a smear tactic. Not to mention the fact that like you guys were saying, the shooting, that may or may not have been possibly spun out of / influenced by Bernie Sanders' main message, right? That shooting was never called a danger to our democracy. It was treated as what it was, a self-contained tragedy. And to an extent, I feel like that's how we should see, the Capitol riot, although I wouldn't necessarily call it nearly as much of a tragedy as the shooting, because I mean, ultimately, nothing really happened. It spread a message. The message was sent. It was definitely and unequivocally ignored. And then that was it.
Yeah, I mean, look.
It's not like the BLM riots where they kept going at it and at it and at it for the entire summer.
And a lot of police officers got injured, but I noticed that for some reason the Capitol police officers are put on this pedestal while all the local police officers in their own localities are looked down upon because they are just doing their job, making sure there's peace in the streets. I like to... I'm really fond of that distinction. But aside from that, Joe Biden also said...
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, he said more. This one's not as bad, but I want to compare this to when he said, "You can't love your country only when you win. You can't obey the law when it's convenient.
Yes.
You can't be patriotic when you embrace or enable lies."
Yes.
Well, what about Hillary Clinton? I recall Hillary Clinton saying that Trump is an illegitimate president, and I recall a statistic that 37% of Democrats believe that Trump did not win the 2016 election.
Yeah.
Now,
that it was, even you could say, rigged.
Rigged because of Russian collusion on Facebook. Yes.
Oh, yeah, remember the Russians? Remember how they were the sort of the linchpin for all of that blame? And then in 2020... Wait, what's Russia? Sorry, I forgot. Isn't it just like North China or something? I don't know.
Well, to be fair, like, Democrats were saying, oh yeah, it's Russia. Then internal investigations led to the conclusion that, yeah, Russia was sort of interfering with our elections, but they didn't even affect 0.01% of the vote. So, yeah.
I mean,
it was pretty bad.
At the end of the day, Russia does not have enough power to elect a president in the United States. If you tell that to a leftist, they'll just fucking NPC Amazon Echo power effective. They just don't have
that is some good shit right there. Holy.
They just fucking shut off like a PC, bro. They don't... No, an NPC. They don't have a response. They just don't.
Oh, yeah. You're not wrong. Anyways. Aside from all that, Joe Biden also tweeted a little video and some footage. 1 year ago, our democracy was attacked and our constitution faced the greatest of threats. But we the people prevailed. Now, it's up to us to choose what kind of nation we're going to be. Let me just make one quick note here. Or two, actually.
Mm-hmm.
How did our democracy, and I'm not even mentioning that we're not a democracy here, we're a republic, but that's besides the point.
They believe we're in a democracy because that's what they want it to be.
Yeah. How did us, the people, because he said we the people prevailed, how did we face the gravest threats a year ago? How? All I saw a year ago was 500 people storm the Capitol, an hour or two later, them being dealt with, and then peacefully, and then our Congress people certifying the 2020 election results.
That's it.
I'm not sure how this was a really grave. What seems to be a grave threat is Joe Biden undermining our republic by saying he may add more justices to the Supreme Court if he can pass through legislation. Him saying that he wants to get rid of the filibuster. Him ramming through a unpopular $5.5 trillion infrastructure plan.
That one's really the worst of it.
Yeah,
that one seems like there's a little bit backwards there.
But I mean, don't even get me started on the fucking inflation. Like, what are you doing, bro?
It's actually very simple. Joe Biden inherited the best economy for a president possible. All he had to do was incorporate his campaign tactics to his presidency.
That's all he had to
do nothing. That's all he had to do.
If Joe Biden did nothing, I honestly believe he might have been a better president than Trump. Because the thing is, Trump had a lot of good things going for him, and he definitely did improve the economy. But he also did some things that, maybe weren't the best. And ultimately, I think the best kind of president is one that does the least.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, presidents do have jobs. Obviously, they still have to do their jobs. They still have to, fill their role in the nation, but presidents that have these huge utopic ideas of what America could be end up completely ruining it. And, I mean, if you want an example for that, I mean, just look at Obama. And, I mean, look at some of the things that Hillary Clinton was saying. Look at what literally any progressive candidate is pushing right now. All of these concepts of a better, more equal, more diverse, whatever, America. It's all this grand vision of a utopian future that just can't and doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's we have a really big problem in the U.S. with politicians being, I feel like, how do I put this? Politicians, and I think this comes from the Democrats mostly.
Mostly,
they like to, I feel like, upplay a lot of the effects of January 6th.
Yes,
and there's one problem. I feel like there's going to be a backlash, and not only from the right, because this is how it starts, right? You have an event known as January 6th, okay? And that event turns into, okay, if you are a Republican that supported Donald Trump at the time, you supported January 6th. And that's pretty bad, because that's very senile and cynical.
And just
illogical. And illogical, right. But then that turns into, you know what? If you were a neutral party, which is like the majority of the Americans,
right,
during the time of January 6th,
you were complicit.
Well, you were complicit because you did not condemn Donald Trump. And then they get thrown into the, quote, basket of deplorables, as Hillary Clinton once said.
Yeah.
And then we get into this vicious cycle where either one party just dominates an election year, or the two parties become even more polarized. It's pick your poison at that point.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think as long as the Democrats are going to stay completely unreasonable, we are going to stay polarized. And this the only way this can end is either pure political, totalitarianism from either side, probably the left, or what is essentially a civil war. And I think both of those outcomes are really bad. But the only way that, this can, be solved without either of those two things happening is for the parties to get along. And the Republicans are kind of waiting for the Democrats to just chill and stop being fucking crazy. When that happens, well, I mean, we don't know that. It's probably not going to happen for quite a little while, at least until, this generation of progressives finally gets tired of their message and, calms down for a sec. Maybe then. But if progressivism keeps going the way it has right now and is projected to continue to, we're probably looking at either a civil war or just the complete political de-evolution of the United States, and both of those outcomes are fucking horrible.
Right, and I feel like the left really pushes this idea, and a great example to cite is Kamala Harris, and we'll move on to Kamala. And this is a tweet. I'm not this is a tweet from her. I'm not modifying anything. Reading it verbatim here. January 6th reflects the dual nature of our democracy, its fragility and strength. The fragility of democracy is that if we are not vigilant, democracy will not stand. The strength of democracy is that everyone should be treated equally and that elections should be free and fair. Now, one thing to point. We're at the point here where...
Strength? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your point, but how the fuck is that a strength? That's just a principle. That's the definition of democracy. The strength is supposed to be the thing that counteracts the weakness. How does that counteract the weakness?
Well, aside from that making no sense, Democrats are not going to weaponize, and this is when it starts in my opinion, Democrats are going to weaponize January 6th against Republicans right now. And you see this because Kamala Harris says the fragility of democracy is that if we are not vigilant, democracy will not stand. So now she's making the presumption that if we do not do anything we can to bring another January 6th, which is give complete control to Kamala Harris, then democracy will fall. So we're just getting into this point where if the right does not agree with Kamala and Joe Biden, then they don't stand with democracy.
Right.
That is a very warped perception of life.
That is a very 1984-esque sort of worldview that we're going for here, Kamala. I mean, you literally just want everyone who disagrees with you to be, cast aside and possibly quote unquote dealt with. There's
yes, so progressive.
There's someone else who came up with a very similar idea. What was his name? Oh yeah, George Orwell. Oh wait, it was supposed to be a warning, not a guidebook. Whoops.
And by the way, it's like, if you don't think that's bad, and like, okay, maybe she said it wrong, right? She didn't mean to, attack the right.
She just misspoke. She gaffed, if you will.
Right. Even though she wrote this on Twitter, or someone else wrote on Twitter for her.
And also, she's not Biden.
Right. If you think all that, fine, fair enough. But Kamala Harris, in a speech on January 6th, 1 year after its anniversary,
yeah, so the January 6th that just passed.
Yeah. She said that January 6th is comparable to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor.
Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021.
Do you see where this is going? We went from, if you are a Republican who supported Trump, you don't stand by democracy, to you are literally on par with Pearl Harbor and 9/11.
Oh, what the fuck?
You are literally a terrorist.
Literally.
How? If anything, the BLM writers are fucking terrorists,
right?
Tearing down fucking stores. If anything, it makes more the raid of the Capitol makes more sense, because if you have a problem with the government, take it up with the government, not the fucking stores.
Exactly. Okay, the BLM writers, they wanted political control, but they knew that if they actually did anything to the government would fight back and kick their asses. So the solution was to terrorize citizens. It's literally terrorism. Terrorism as in striking terror into the hearts of the masses so they shut up and comply. That's terrorism. That's literally the definition.
Yeah, and we went from in my opinion, it's a very big escalation from, okay, this was a very bad event that happened on January 6th. Let's not repeat it again, to, okay, if you supported Trump during the time, you are literally against democracy. And by the way, it's a very large escalation. To, if you supported Donald Trump, you are January 6th, and January 6th is equivalent to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor.
No, it's not. It did not even affect our country nearly as much as 9/11 or Pearl Harbor.
Okay, this is kind of a clown moment, but they do know that Pearl Harbor, right, was, committed by, the Japanese. And, fun fact about the Japanese, sure, they were definitely imperialists, but they were Eastern imperialists. They were not Western imperialists. One little just tidbit that maybe might be a little bit noteworthy, since the left is very used to calling everyone on the right and the center, literally fascist, literally Hitler, literally neo-Nazis, whatever. They should be careful about what comparisons they make, especially if their biggest burn towards these white supremacists is that their beliefs are as bad as what the Asians did.
Yeah.
The only person who's gonna find that offensive is an actual white supremacist. Gaga, bro.
I mean, hey, we're coming back full circle.
For real. I genuinely do believe that everyone, not everyone, that is an overgeneralization, and that's not fair. But a large minority of progressive activists are or were racist, and they think that they can atone for their sins by being progressive, but they're using their old racist ideology and sort of tendencies by thinking about groups of people. This sort of this group mentality, this anti-individualist rhetoric, to be progressive. And so there's like these small moments where they go full mask off, like you shouldn't want to be like Pearl Harbor because they were Asian. It's like, what are you doing, bro? I thought you were supposed to be, the party of like MLK, like that,
tolerance.
It's the party of tolerance, the party of peace. None of this is what you are talking about.
And I just want to make one quick point on the party of peace. Hillary Clinton in 2016 literally campaigned on affecting airspace close to Russia.
Oh yeah, now, literally starting World War III.
Literally starting World War. Like, how can you call yourselves the party of peace and then go and say Hillary Clinton is your role model? Like, how does that work? Explain it to me. But we don't have enough time for that.
Yeah, we will definitely retread that whole thing in another video. But basically, this whole thing about January 6th, it's just going to keep escalating. And I've been saying this, for quite a little while. I think I have said it on previous episodes, is that the left does cannibalize itself. The left is down an endless purity spiral, and it doesn't really stop for anyone. This goes for... Twitter, this goes for, like social media online spaces. This goes for politicians. This also goes for, big political events like January 6th. It's not that Republicans are evil. It's that you have to find more words to make them more evil every year because you're going farther and farther left. That's just how it is. It is genuinely concerning because eventually there's going to be like a singularity. There's going to be a tipping point where leftists become so left that they're literally just openly advocating for Marxism in both economic and cultural spaces. And disagreeing means you are literally Hitler. Anyone and everyone. It's what the SJWs were saying, but it's now mainstream. And it could totally be happening in the next 5 to 10 years. I think at that point it would be completely fair to say that it would literally be 1984. I know that's a meme, but it pretty much would be.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, so we'll have another thing to talk about, branching off of that topic anyway. But we do have one more thing to mention for January 6th.
I think Sunny wants to touch on this, right?
Well, I feel like I've already touched on it. I said earlier, Governor DeSantis, he did a press conference January 6th talking about how he knew that the left were going to try to bring this up again and trying to make it worse than it already was. And he would articulate so well. We're going to put it in the description so you can watch it. It's a quick 6-minute video. You enjoy it. He talks about how he talked about what we already talked about, the baseball game, and how he was approached by the Bernie Sanders supporter and asked him while he was leaving, hey, are there Republicans there? And then he replied yes. And then after he left, the Bernie Sanders supporters started to shoot up. And he said that luckily that the Capitol Police there, or the security there, were able to stop him before he would kill many other dozens of people. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that, he portrayed it very well. That baseball game only got 1 to 2 days coverage, while this Capitol raid got basically a whole year of coverage of people still talking about it.
And there's no signs of it stopping.
Exactly.
I mean, we could theoretically see a headline every single January 6th. It's getting the same coverage as 9/11 did back when, the right was the, cultural superpower and the discourse was on preventing Muslim terrorism. 9/11 got coverage every single year. And there's a reason for that isn't just political, and it's because it was a serious and huge loss of life. January 6th was not a huge loss of life. It was not an act of terrorism. Well, that one actually is a little bit more debatable than the loss of life thing, which is just absolutely empirical. I don't think that it was an act of terrorism, but I guess you theoretically could make a case that it was trying to strike fear into, politicians. Maybe you could make that case, but the important part is that there was not nearly as much of a big, and more importantly, I would argue, uninvolved loss of life in 9/11 as there was with January 6th, and even the shooting, if we're being completely honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just not really, that comparable, and I don't know why they're being treated like they're the same thing when they're very obviously not.
Yeah.
So.
Completely agree.
That is essentially all we have for January 6th. There wasn't really that much of a Twitter outrage as there was on the actual January 6th, which I guess is to be expected. But, particularly, I think there was of note, all of this stuff that was happening from the politicians and, the higher-ups. It was all being echoed by the NPCs on Twitter. Not really anything worth reporting on because, of course, it's like this. It's always like this.
And by the way, I think this is how the left wants it to play out. They want it to be subtle. Like, they want it to be talked about in a subtle manner so that eventually it, becomes commonplace.
Right.
For us to say, Republicans are responsible for January 6th. And then it obviously escalates into January 6th is 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. That's where I think it's going to go.
Right. And I do want to be slightly more specific. What they want it to be is that all Republicans are responsible for January 6th. Because, obviously, we got to face facts here. Republicans were responsible for January 6th. The vast majority of people who went to January 6th were Republicans and conservatives.
Yeah.
However, that does not mean that all Republicans were responsible for January 6th, obviously. And that's the message that they want to push.
They want to conflate a small group of Republicans with the larger group of Republicans.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to inflate this group of like 500 people to stand for the entirety of half of the nation.
Yep. Really bad stuff.
Yeah. So, that's essentially all the discourse we have for January 6th. But don't worry. Don't click off. Because there's more. There's so much more.
No way.
And I kind of do want to touch on this topic because I feel that it is, at the very least, somewhat relevant to our discussion of the purity spiral on the left and how, that affects not just everyone else, but also the left itself. I feel like that discussion could very easily be taken into cancel culture. You all remember cancel culture, right? We've discussed it to death, but I promise this is a special kind of cancel culture. It is a canceling of one of their own. A canceling of a leftist YouTuber who used to go by the alias of the Nostalgia Chick as they were I believe, with the Nostalgia Critic, if I'm not mistaken. But now they go under the name, their actual name, of Lindsay Ellis. Lindsay Ellis was canceled, and I would like to get into why really quickly. So, Lindsay Ellis announced that she is quitting YouTube. So she was a YouTuber, and now she's quit. After a tweet comparing Raya and the Last Dragon to Avatar: The Last Airbender. The actual event of the canceling is ultimately a lot less important than the response. Essentially, she has released an essay on Patreon, so you had to be, presumably at least, a patron in order to see her, response. And then I believe she actually did make a video response after that, addressing to the public why she left. I don't know if there are any discrepancies with those two, but let's just simplify it down to that she is leaving the platform and that it was a, at least from her side, a very complicated situation. And she has a lot of gripes with cancel culture, but she also recognizes that, calling it that does give her political enemies some weight. And obviously she doesn't want to do that because she's a fucking ideologue. But, the important part of, her canceling event is essentially that she got karma. That's all it is. Maybe she wasn't a canceler necessarily, but she definitely was part of that political movement, and she had very little sympathy for people who got canceled because of something that they've said and that they've apologized for. The fact that she had an audience that was basically built of people who had no concept or framework for forgiveness, and now she's asking all those people for forgiveness, and they're like, the fuck, no. You got canceled. That's it. Your career is over. GG.
GG easy.
GG easy. So, she's definitely feeling the weight of that, and, obviously there is a little bit of sympathy that I feel for her. Getting canceled is horrible. But, to an extent, she kind of put it on herself, so...
I mean, you gotta feel bad for her.
Yeah.
But also, you kind of did it to yourself, just saying.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, for us, because we are smaller, if we were to get canceled, that'd probably be a really bad thing because I assume people would go for personal lives.
Yeah. There are a lot of people out there who take canceling to the next level, and they try to get you doxxed and whatever, and they can all justify that by basically you just disagree, and therefore you don't deserve a livelihood, which is fucked for a lot of reasons, but ultimately it just kind of boils down to we cannot live in a world where we are not allowed to express our opinions for fear of losing our lives over it. Of course, obviously it's mostly metaphorically losing our lives, losing our livelihoods, but eventually it could very easily escalate into literally being killed, literally losing our lives. Maybe it would start out as mob justice, or maybe it would turn into some sort of state totalitarianism, where if you say the wrong thing, it's prison, like North Korea style, or maybe both if we end up in the worst timeline, where there's a mob of people that actively help the state. It's not completely infeasible to think of.
It is scary though because
it's very
we
scary.
are smaller.
Yeah.
So if we get canceled, that's the end of our futures. So
well, maybe it depends how far they go with it.
I feel like cancel culture is very fucked because think about, especially modern day cancel culture. Yes, accountability is good, but what do you mean no? No. Accountability is good, especially if you did something really bad.
I think that personal accountability is good. I think that ultimately the only person you should be holding accountable to is yourself. I do not believe that you should be held accountable to opinions. I think you can have the most fucked up opinions on the planet, but ultimately, if someone tries to make you take accountability for your thoughts, they are trying to slander you for thought crime, which is incredibly authoritarian and incredibly dystopian. And I do not want to live in a world where we can be punished for what we think. It's only what we do.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Chao. So, I think accountability is good, but it's to a certain extent, right? So if you want to not watch any of EDP's content, obviously don't do that because he's obviously a pedo.
Yeah.
But if we're just targeting people's opinions, I don't know about that. And I don't mean radical opinions like being a racist. I mean I disagree with you on fiscal policy. Someone should not be canceled for that.
I will say though, extreme. I gotta say, I personally go a little bit further. I think people should be allowed to be racist.
What?
I would never be racist. I think it's a horrible thing to be. And I think that if you are racist, you are not only not that great of a person, but also kind of a dumbass because you've let something as simple as skin coloration or place of origin divide who is and isn't human. That's deeply sad, in my opinion. But I do believe that people should be allowed to be racist. There should not be accountability for those who are racist just in thoughts alone. In action, that's completely fair. If you are racially discriminating, that should have accountability. But if you just think racist, if you have racist thoughts, I feel like the only penalty that should ever incur is that people personally decide not to hang around you. That's it. You can't.
I mean,
you know.
My view on it is like with racist. If you don't like them because they're racist, don't watch their content. It's that simple. Let people make their own decisions about it. Don't go advocating on Twitter saying, "Oh, don't watch this guy's content because he's a racist." Don't watch their content.
I will say I'm actually okay with that too. I think if you don't like someone because they're racist and you don't think that people should be watching them, well,
by the way, I mean this is important because someone's going to take this out of context. I mean with their opinions. I don't mean obviously through action.
Well, yeah, I know. I already knew that.
No, I know.
I'm saying like I think that it is okay ultimately for people to exercise their free speech in whatever way they want, even if I think it's stupid.
No, I agree. It's just a moral question, right?
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, I think morals should ultimately only serve to protect people's rights. If people's rights are protected, then morals are, I don't know, kind of secondary. Because like, I feel like if everyone has their rights, and all those rights are protected, then morality's job is done. What is and isn't moral is whatever infringes on the least amount of people's rights. And when I say least amount of people, I'm not talking about utilitarianism. Fucking commies watching this video who probably aren't. I'm talking about the most amount of people, like, as in everyone involved.
So this is where I disagree with you guys, because I'm not getting where you guys are differing from actions and thoughts. Because then I was with you until brought up. I was with you till KYKA brought up YouTube. Like, if you don't like the content because they're being racist, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
But that is an action. So
no,
I think they should making a video of you being of them being racist is an action.
No,
that is an action.
I feel like it's a little different. So what I mean by action and opinion is like, if you go out into the public and just say the N-word to black people, that is action you're taking to be racist. But if you just have thoughts about,
is it?
Yeah, I do think that.
I
is
feel like
an
that's
action.
more of speech, which is the intersection.
Speech is an action, though. Speech is an action. That's why you have to differ. What are the thoughts for you guys, and what is action? That is where we need to differ.
I think.
Yeah, go for it, Chao.
I was gonna say that I think that speech is ultimately a gray area, where thoughts and actions intersect, because it essentially is the act of thinking out loud. So it is thought and action, and so it should be treated as both, not just one or the other. I do think that ultimately, when it comes to speaking, which this includes slurs, and don't worry, we'll get to that later in the episode as well. I think that the act of speech must be protected, because the freedom of speech it's not even just a constitutional right, it is a human right. It's something you are born with, and something that can never be taken away, only infringed upon by authoritarians. And that ultimately the consequences, sort of the accountability of that speech, can only be doled out on a personal level, not on an institutional level. Does that make sense?
Not really. Because
yeah, go for it.
Because let's say someone goes to the street, as KYKA said, and screams at African Americans.
Yeah.
And says like racial slurs like the N word, the hard R, with very aggressive and hatred behind that.
Uh-huh.
Are you trying to say that they are not allowed to take action towards that person for accountability.
What do you mean action? That's the question. If
like,
you mean,
like assault.
are they allowed to respond or assault? Yeah.
Because I think that response should always be allowed. I think that assault is generally uncalled for.
Uncalled for.
Well, sorry, I'm using the wrong terminology. It's worse. It is a violation of the right to life. So
How is it? It's not them taking life. It's just them kicking their ass because they are literally using the words to point hatred at them.
The difference between hurting someone and killing someone, while the difference is, that the person still survives after the first one, it's very hard to, in the moment, sort of delve out how much force is going to hurt someone versus how much force is going to severely injure or kill someone. And the difference is essentially just how good in shape they are, and that's just such a specific situation where it can't really be, considered as a general rule of thumb. It has to be a case-by-case thing.
Well, then the same can be said about words. Because words can also hurt people.
No,
we cannot deny that.
No, yes we can.
No, yes, they can. You can be very much harmed more emotionally and mentally than you will be physically.
Well, I think that point, just suck it up. This is how I view it. You don't have the right to assault someone if they said something mean to you, even if that's a slur.
Even if it's a racial slur that's very
because words are not actions.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Words can hurt you, though.
No, you.
Words can hurt you.
Yes, they can hurt you, but not physically.
Okay, and also a punch can also not hurt you.
Look.
A punch cannot also not hurt you. No.
A punch.
No, because a punch cannot hurt you.
A punch is an action of physical damage.
There's a problem with this rabbit hole, because this opens a can of worms with, okay, we're going to the point where if any word offends you, to any point, you have the right to respond with physical action.
Exactly.
That is a bad road to take.
What your road is taking is much worse than what I'm taking, because you're saying that you can just go onto the street and say racial slurs and cannot be hurt or any.
But you can.
Actions.
That's a right you have. You can do that right now. You know that, right?
That's the first.
Actually, you can't. That's hate speech. You would be going to jail.
No, you can't.
So you're saying
if it's hate speech,
you support hate speech?
To a degree, yes. To a degree.
You made it sound really bad, Chao. You made it sound like he supports hate speech.
Well, no. I'm saying like you support hate speech laws. That is anti-constitutional, my guy.
Constitutions are meant to be changed. This is the founding fathers viewed it. Constitutions are meant to be, changed throughout time. It's our groundwork, but there are other layers.
Look, you could say the N-word in public if you're a white guy, and nothing will happen to your First Amendment right. Because I'm sorry. If any court decides to prosecute you on the basis that you said hate speech, that state will be sued. That is you are violating the Constitution, and the Constitution is the law of the land. That is basic law. If you want to go out on the street and call a black person the N-word when you're white, that is your right.
You're saying that they should do that?
No, I'm just saying.
No, but that's what you guys are saying. Because you guys are saying that you should do it. Yes, you are.
And can are different words.
Sonny. Okay, look. Sonny. Look, Sonny. Listen to me. I'm saying that if we do not allow certain speech to be said because it might offend people, that opens a slippery.
It's not might. It is. It will. If you go to somewhere like Compton, you will get shot if you said that to a person, especially with hatred behind it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a.
It's not true. Yes.
That is murder. Okay.
That's not okay just because they said something like bad, just because they were asking for it. That's
can you imagine?
Murder.
Chao. Sonny, can you imagine? And by the way, you have very strong views on abortion, right?
Yes.
And gender identity. Can you imagine if you went to a trans person and said there are only two genders? Can you imagine the type of response that would be elicited from them? They would say you're saying hate speech, and to them, your speech offends them. By your token, they have the right to beat you up. Do you understand what you're saying?
You understand what you're saying is to use...
I'm just saying we're all at a level playing field.
Right?
It's either some speech offends us, and it always constantly changes, and we never know what speech is offensive and what could get you in jail, or all speech is speech and should be treated as speech. There's only two ways you could go about this, and I like the latter because I think it's more consistent in how it can be applied.
And it respects everyone's rights.
In the law, if you antagonize someone to a fight...
Look,
antagonize? Define.
Threatening, before we go into that, because I understand what he's saying, threatening is different. All right, you could be put in jail for making threats, and obviously threats are only used with speech. But I'm not threatening anyone if, by the way, I'd never do this.
By calling him a dirty N-word, you would not be threatening them?
Yes.
How am I threatening them?
How is that a threat?
Because you're basically using
a threat is a promise of action.
Yeah.
So let's look at
you could look at the definition, sure.
Oh my God, okay.
Because
it's very clear. Because
what I'm getting from this, I'm pretty sure some viewers are getting from this, is that you are advising people.
No,
just because they have their First Amendment right, they can go out to the street and say whatever they want.
If they want to do that, sure. I don't advise it, but they can if they want.
But they can. They have a right to.
And by the way, I respect that right, because if they don't have that right, that means I don't have the right to go out in public and tell a trans person there are only two genders.
It's a double-edged sword. It has to be.
Yeah. Either everyone gets offended, or none of us get offended. That's the basis.
Because ultimately, right, if we're going to assume that hate speech is a reasonable thing, who gets to decide what is and isn't hateful? Because I'll give you a hint. It won't be you.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, how else are things deliberated and chosen? Like laws and stuff like that in the Constitution.
By the
exactly, so we could just vote on it. It would be the same thing.
Oh my
Why can't we?
Because to change... Well, you actually wouldn't change... You actually wouldn't vote for anything, okay? You know who would vote for? The states.
Right.
Okay? You would have to have some type of convention or some type of vote called upon by states, presumably by governors, to decide whether the First Amendment should be repealed.
I'm sorry.
You don't decide anything.
Like, okay, consider the ramifications of this. We all live in California, okay? Spoilers, we're doxing us. We all live in California, okay?
Yes.
Imagine if the people who run fucking California were able to directly control what words you can and can't say. How is that the good future?
I mean, it saves quite a bit of, people, lives and such as that.
No, it doesn't.
It's for your protection. It's not much,
So,
like I said, I believe...
Bruh.
I don't want to be protected, man. I just want to be left alone, and I want to live my life. I don't care if someone says anything offensive to me.
You're saying we should, to go off safety versus freedom. So you think you should have the right to kill someone without any consequence?
What?
I'm not saying that.
That's safety for freedom.
No.
I mean,
no.
Freedom
I'm
for
just saying, I want you to leave me alone.
Oh my God, okay.
I don't need anyone to protect me because you think certain words will hurt me.
The exception of safety over freedom is when the freedom encroaches on other people's freedom, like murder or assault or rape. These are all things.
So you're saying that someone should not be offended just because the word. They should just suck it up, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
Have any of you have any of you been called any derogatory language before?
Oh sure.
Towards
you've done it. You've done it. You've done it.
Oh, okay.
Would you want me to be getting the law involved with you? I'd never do it, by the way.
The difference is
to be like getting you involved with a legal issue because I considered it to be hate speech, and the law of California would almost obviously agree that I'm gonna like blur it out. I'll blur this out, but is a slur because you've called me that before. Don't act like you haven't.
The difference
I don't care because I believe in free speech.
The example I said earlier of someone saying I heard hard out with hatred. Mm-hmm. The difference between what I said and that is I did not do it with hatred. I did it with joking matter.
It was a joke. It's intent. Then how can you tell what the intent was?
How can you tell what the intent to anything is?
I mean, I guess you're right. It's all interpretation.
Then
Exactly.
the entire system of law is fundamentally flawed. Ergo, we should default to the position that uses the least amount of legal influence, aka free speech. Dude, I'm sorry, but it's L after L after L. This argument doesn't make sense.
No, it's because you guys are trying to advocate that you should.
Not should.
You are advocating.
Not should.
How are we? Okay, how are we advocating? How? Explain. Just because you can murder somebody, right, doesn't mean you should murder somebody.
And we're not even.
Wait, so you're saying you could murder someone without any consequence?
Anyone can murder somebody
without consequence. Because that's what you guys are saying. They guys, that you can say the N-word without any consequences. That is what you're saying.
No.
What are you saying? Without consequence. You think that people should?
Sonny, please.
What?
Look, calling someone the N-word is not murder. Okay.
It isn't not.
But that's an example you just used. So I'm using
let me explain the example. Just because you can murder somebody doesn't mean you should, right? Anyone can murder anybody, right? If I go get a gun, I can murder anyone in my house, right? I would never do such a thing, but I can. Once I have that gun. It doesn't mean I should, and it doesn't mean I'll be rid of legal consequences.
And you shouldn't be.
Yes.
But we're on the topic of legal consequences, so we're talking about, since you brought up murder, if you murder someone, yes, you can, but there'll be legal actions.
Okay.
Why shouldn't there be a certain consequence done to the people who said a derogatory language such as the N-word to a black guy with hatred?
Because there's an ever morphing how do I put this? It's gonna be ever morphing, right? The basis of speech. Yesterday, the N-word will be offensive. The next day, using what Chao said, the F word, will be also offensive.
It already
and then
is.
After that, well, it already is. I feel like a couple years ago it wasn't. But that's just the point. Culture always evolves.
Language always evolves.
Language evolves.
But
and
the
words
law must stay as close to how it was as possible so that we know that the laws actually are worth our time. Like, it does not matter how far you go back. Murder will always be illegal because it's fucking murder. Because you're taking someone else's life, and therefore you are infringing on their right to life. That's innate. But the right to free speech is one of the cornerstones of the Western world. I'm actually kind of surprised that you don't understand that more. That these hate speech laws are infringing on free speech. Not, like...
I never said they didn't infringe on it. I just said that we shouldn't be... Like, legally, you know what? I'll take that out of books. We shouldn't be legal consequence for it.
Yeah.
But to say that we can't give a response that's, like, physical is bad.
Okay.
No.
So, that is vigilante justice. There's a lot of reasons which I feel like the BLM, anti-defund the police stance that you've taken would understand why vigilante justice is bad. The reason why the state has
There's a huge difference between the BLM riots and you punching a guy because they said the N-word to you or another...
It's actually more similar than you think. Because when you go and protest for BLM, you make the presumption that because cops are, they are, they're bad towards black people, you could take the law into your own hands. You could riot up the city, loot a couple stores, in some cases murder people, and that happened, by the way, in Seattle. It did. And you're saying, because if someone says to a black person, you are an N-word, you can punch them in the face. It's the exact same concept.
No, it's not. Because the difference is, one is directly to you, and the one is indirectly to you.
No, you're taking the law.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter, because that's the one aspect you try and dance away from, is the one is indirectly affecting you, and the one is directly affecting you.
Excuse me. People that are doing the BLM, riots, and some of them are peaceful protests, I'll admit, and I think everyone should admit that.
Yeah.
The people that are doing the riots, a lot of them are black people, and they're rioting
Actually, most of them are white people. Actually,
I know,
majority.
but some of them are. I'm not
No,
saying that.
you just said the majority is black. No, it's
I'm not saying the
white
majority.
people. So there's a
I'll go
difference.
back into the film and I'll replay it because obviously you misheard me. I did not say majority are black people. I said some of them are black people, and they're rioting because they feel like cops are affecting their lives in a negative way. They're taking the law into their own hands. You're saying that if I call a black person as a white man the N word in a hateful or derogatory way, that black person has the right to punch me. So now, that black person that just punched me and the black people that are rioting in the streets are taking the law into their own hands. Do you see the connection?
No, I do
Okay.
not.
So, the black people that are rioting are taking the law into their own hands because they are rioting. They are going into stores looting and in some cases murdering. The person is taking the law into their own hands, which I call the N-word.
That's not really the law in their own hands, though.
It
Writing
is,
is not the law of their own
Okay.
hands.
The person taking the law into
They
their own
punched
hands
me
is the person
because they wanted justice, right?
No,
They
but
wanted
how are the writers taking the law into their own hands?
because they are pursuing justice.
How are they pursuing justice towards
Because they believe
Okay,
that the
Sonny.
cops.
pursuing justice?
Hold on,
Would
I wanna
try to
explain
get
this.
back at cops, not at the businesses,
What
not
do you
the
think they're
small
doing?
business. How are they getting at the cops?
Okay,
Because
Okay.
they're committing crimes without police supervision, right? They're facing zero consequences.
hold on.
That's how
I want to say something about this. Okay, Sonny, their entire thing is justice. Their entire ideology, their entire identity is based around social justice. That's why
We can all agree that the BLM ideals and what the riots are completely different.
different from what?
We can all agree because people even said themselves they agree
Different
with the
from what?
BLM, but not the rioting.
Okay,
They
but
are
I'm
two
not
separate
saying that.
things.
Like, I actually made this distinction. I don't know if you heard. I said a lot of the protests were peaceful. I made the
Right.
distinction.
The protests were peaceful.
But
the
now you're
riots were
trying
not.
to put them back together
No,
by
I'm
saying
not.
that I'm not saying you.
They're
I'm
both-
saying
I'm saying that the riots. I'm actually distinguishing the two. The riots.
that's you. But I'm talking to Chao right now since he brought up that point. I am counteracting that point.
I feel like Chao was building on my point, but I guess I could.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, the most, if not all, of the protests were peaceful. That's why they were identified as the peaceful protests. But here's the thing: we're not talking about the peaceful protests, and the reason why we're not talking about them is because the protests were not vigilantes. The rioters were. The rioters said that the police are corrupt and they are incapable, not even just unwilling, but incapable of acting out the justice of America because, you know, they are discriminating against black people, and that is racist, and that is deeply institutionally racist, and that is not justice. They are justice. They call themselves justice. That's why this whole thing is happening. The reason why the entire BLM riots, and arguably the protests to an extent, were even happening at all was because they felt like they were the only people who could fight for justice while everyone else just sat on the sidelines and watched. They were absolutely vigilantes. That was their main thing. And the reason why vigilante justice isn't okay is because vigilantes can't be held accountable. It all loops back together. Police, as you know, police wear body cams. They have systems in place so that they can be held accountable if police officers do something against justice, against the law, against what we've established to be justice. But
then do you want body cams on all civilians? So they can...
What?
Because then...
What?
Do you not want body cams on police then? What's your point here?
I'm just saying...
Why would you bring up that point? That's a weird point to me. Do you not want body cams on police?
Just saying, because he's saying, oh, we can take accountability for the police. Counteract that point.
It's boom. Because the police are public servants, man.
Their job is to restore law and order. They get paid to do it. It's their job. It's not the citizens' job to restore law and order. That's what the police are for. The police have final responsibility.
I mean, I would bring up an old podcast, but footage got corrupted, so I can't even bring up.
I have all the files on backup if you really need them. But
No, you don't. You're not that one. Not the one on police.
What?
Not the one that got corrupted.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, obviously we don't have that one because my fucking computer crashed. But here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, if you want to make an argument that the police are either incapable or generally unwilling to tackle such small issues as someone being called the N-word in a hateful way, and that the only people who are capable of doing so in that sort of personal one-to-one style is the person being, offended, that is an anti-police message. At least partially. You do not believe that the police should have the monopoly on violence that they currently do. That's what the leftists are saying.
But to say that the N-word in any derogatory, especially the N-word, it's like the biggest.
Why is the N-word the only example you've been using? There are a lot.
Because can you say if you can say that, say it right now. Say the N-word right now. Say that if you think you have the right,
I'm
say
not
it right
going to
now.
say it because it doesn't apply to me.
Exactly, because you can't. Because if you have the right, if you have the freedom of speech, then say it.
Well,
if you have the freedom,
just because I can do something doesn't mean I should. No, let's build on something else. Let's move on to Hassan Piker because this is obviously a good segue.
What?
If you really let me explain. If you really believe that a black person should be able to punch a white guy for calling him the N-word, which is fine, that's your opinion, and you could have opinions, and I don't, and because you could have opinions, I can't just punch you in the face, right? That's how freedom of speech works.
It's not an opinion.
It is an opinion.
No. It's not an opinion. The word is not an opinion.
That's the only alternative.
That N-word is a very harsh word.
No, I'm not saying
that is a fact. That is a fact. That's not an opinion. That is a fact.
Okay, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying your opinion that a black man can punch a white man for calling him the N-word. That is your opinion. And by the way, because we live in the United States and we can have opinions, I don't have the right to punch you in the face because I disagree with you. Cool. Now we've established that.
Speech.
Now,
the difference is that the difference is
I'm building on. N-word. We'll never agree on this. That's fine. I'm building onto Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker. He made recent news for controversy around the use of cracker. And by the way, I don't care if I say that because and because that word is offensive and derogatory towards white people, and because you are brown, Sonny, if you say cracker towards me, do you think I have the right to punch you in the face? Please. How does that work? It is the same as the N-word towards white people, right?
Okay, it's a little bit less severe because
it's fine.
It's a little.
But it's
less
the same
severe,
concept.
But it's still a slur.
But do you think I have the right to punch you in the face if you say that to me? Really?
Alright, KYKA, do you think that as someone who just, cuts someone is the same as if someone stabs someone to death should get the same amount of jail time?
Well, obviously not. Assault. That's why a judge can give different sentencing, right?
Okay. Yes, it is.
So
each
thing demands its own kind of
it's a racial slur. If your basis is because it's a racial slur, and you're saying it towards a group that feels antagonized by it, that's your whole concept. That person has the right to punch them, right?
I feel like it has its own kind of tier list because the reason why I use the N-word is because it's the highest amount.
Literally,
as we use murder, it is one of the highest amount against the law.
Okay, Sonny, this is the arguments that we go against leftists with. And the reason why we use these arguments is because leftists are inherently against the concept of free speech when it's not politically convenient for them.
Just because you have one view that is left does not make you all left.
I never said that. Okay, I never said that.
But you're basically saying that, we fight leftists on this. Why are you having this ideal?
Yes.
That's not what you just said.
Well, actually, that is partially what I'm saying. And the reason why I'm saying it is because you do not like... you do not respect free speech just like the leftists do, but for a totally different reason. It's not the same. I'm not saying you're leftist. I'm not saying you were even partially leftist or that this view is a uniquely leftist thing. But I'm saying the reason why we fight leftists on this is because it's fucking stupid for multiple reasons. And we're trying to explain this to you, right? That in order for a country to function, there are a certain amount of human rights that must be critically respected because they're human rights, because they're integral to us and because we're born with them. One of them is freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom to voice that thought. That is a fundamental and absolutely critical human right that everyone must have in order for society to function and in order for all the other rights to, be respected as well. Look, we could go down the minutiae of all of this over and over and over again. We probably already have. This was supposed to be a small topic, but it's probably going to be the majority of the video. But here's the thing, okay? I'm trying to make this, shorter so we can move on. But ultimately, okay, if you do not believe that free speech is entirely encompassing and that certain words cannot be said because they are offensive and because they are slurs and because they have quote-unquote serious potential to hurt people, unquote, then why are you here? This is a podcast where basically the entire thing that we do is we say things that the establishment doesn't want us to be able to say. That's
the point of the podcast is to display our opinions on this state of the government and what it happens. It is not because we are all right-wing. It's not because we all have the same point of views. It's to display our opinions and our views on certain topics. It is not because we are all have the same opinion or we all be the same.
When did I say that we were all supposed to be the same opinion?
You're demonstrating that because I have this view, why am I on this podcast? Why should I be on the podcast if I do not agree with the freedom of speech?
Right.
Why?
But the reason why I say that specifically, it's not just any normal view. Freedom of speech is directly integral to the podcast's functioning and success, is that if you are on this podcast, you believe that you should be allowed to speak right now. But
why do we bleep words? Why do we bleep words on YouTube?
Great question, actually.
Why?
I've been asking this for
YouTube. That's why we bleep.
Because YouTube is a demonstrably authoritarian body.
So then why are we on YouTube? If it's against freedom of speech, why are we on YouTube?
That's the best way for us to grow.
Exactly. For the best way of survival, we shouldn't say the N-word. I just said my point of view.
I swear to God, I'm literally about to fucking say the N-word if you do not stop. Just
say it. Say it.
Oh, don't say the N-word.
You think I'm scared?
Don't say it.
You think this shit will keep me up at night? If I say the forbidden word, if I dare say Voldemort's name, I'm this close. Don't push me.
Don't say it, please. Okay, look. Okay, let's just agree to disagree.
It's a word, my guy. It's not that deep.
It is a word.
See, everyone has their own value of things. As one thing they value something.
Why can't we just agree to disagree? It's literally that simple.
Because it's too integral.
I understand.
See, I say we fuck the rest of the video and just talk about this. Because, this is something. The rest is just the scrape of the bucket, to be honest.
Well, I mean, these are all very important topics that we had literally prepared for the video. But I actually do agree that if we wanted to continue this debate, that would be fine. If it weren't for the fact that, on some level, we're not really going anywhere with it. I mean, we're going somewhere, but it's slow.
How long are we recording? How long have we been recording?
We've been recording for an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, for fuck's sakes, I have a whole lot to do.
And we haven't even ended with the first topic. Oh, sorry, second topic. With Lindsay Ellis.
We should just went to fucking Kazakhstan right after fucking Fit 6. As the fucking thing was.
Oh my god. Okay, look, we will obviously revisit this in a different episode. Let's just cut to the important stuff. So, we've discussed, this whole thing on free speech. This was going to actually segue into a discussion about how, Twitch treats, slurs on its platform. I believe KYKA did mention briefly the thing about like cracker being banned, even though lefties don't think of it as a slur because it's for white people, but that's basically all it is. That's the only meat on its bones. Is everyone ready to move on and let's finish up the episode?
I feel like it's stupid what they did, but they have the right to do it.
Yeah.
I do agree with this. Ultimately, it is authoritarian and gross, but they do own the platform. So, I mean, I'm not saying that a government should be intervening to stop that, because obviously that would also be authoritarian and not great. But it's a gray area when it comes to companies. It's weird.
So I think I have one issue with this, and I've prepared this. So Twitch tweeted on December 19th, 2020. We've had questions about the use of the N-word on Twitch. Use with the hard R is not allowed, period. We also automatically block the word across Twitch, including in chat. Additionally, regarding of spelling or pronunciation, slurs used for the purpose of hate or harassment are not allowed. Now, last I checked, Hassan Piker is a white guy. So, and by the way, I don't know if he used this in a hateful or derogatory way, but if the basis is we cannot say cracker on Twitch entirely, I kind of disagree. At this point, if we're just going off whatever Twitch set for the N-word, and by the way, we have to be equal here, because if we discriminate based on race, that is literally racism.
It literally is.
Yeah. If we discriminate based on race, that's literally racism. Mm-hmm. We have to assume that the word cracker can be used by white people because they can't be derogatory about it. Or we have to assume that cracker can be used in a non-derogatory way. But that's not being used that way. If you say cracker, I mean, you're just going to get banned off the platform, which is, it is sad.
I mean, how did this Piker guy, I really don't like Twitch, how did he say it? Do you have a clip of that?
I think he briefly mentioned it, and then
do you have a clip of it?
I don't have a clip of it.
Yeah. Because if he is in a derogatory way, it's fair play.
Right, I agree. But if it's not,
you fucked up. Now, if I'm just talking about fucking Ritz crackers or saltine crackers, then, I feel like there should be, if you do get banned, get a review shit and take it up with Twitch. But then again, it's Twitch's platform. As you stated earlier, if you don't fucking like it, you don't have to fucking watch it. You have the right to fucking leave and not watch their shit. So, I don't give a shit. That's why I stay away from Twitch.
I don't know. I stay away from Twitch just because I was never really into it, and I don't really understand the subculture. And, frankly, I think that Twitch is, it's kind of a mess, and I'm already into YouTube, which is also a mess, so I think I'll, stay with YouTube, but...
Oh, okay, so I see. He got banned for making a cracker tier list. He put Ritz crackers on the S tier. And he has, a whole bunch of people. Is
objectively correct, but fine.
I mean, Ritz crackers are really good, to be honest. They're really good.
He has people like Pokimane, Tom Holland,
oh my fucking gosh,
Abraham Lincoln, and no other cracker brand. So,
well, that is fair play. I mean, honestly,
that's fair play. I mean, but
it's not. Guess it is. It is fair play.
It's weird. Okay.
Just because you're white does not mean you can't be racist to other white people.
True.
I mean,
it's the same goes for any other race.
I mean, the truth is, I think actually that, especially nowadays, the most amount of racism that at least I've seen definitely comes from, basically race infighting, especially with white people. I cannot count how many fucking white people hate white people. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, fair play, I guess, on Twitch. But I feel like, and obviously this is just how I feel, that this won't be applied evenly. But that's just how I feel.
That's just Twitch. That is just Twitch.
That's just Twitch.
That is it. They have not treated all their fucking people who use the platform equally. Never. Ever. Freaking, we have SoL Amaranth doing fucking bikini hot tub streams, bro. Oh my gosh.
That's just gross, bro. I
don't know about those, but...
enough of a simp to actually enjoy that kind of content. Oh wait,
I mean,
yeah. Isn't simp also banned?
oh yeah, it's banned. You know who we do know is a simp, and who is also on Twitch?
Maybe we shouldn't be calling people out like that. Oh wait, that's.
I was pointing to someone to your right, Chao.
What?
What?
To your right.
To my. Excuse me.
Someone to your right.
I'm not getting the reference. I'm not gonna lie.
Huh.
I was talking about KYKA.
Why? Why me? What have I done?
You're simp,
I
bro.
thought you were referring to
Oh,
Yeah,
him?
someone else.
him.
Nah. Why would I give him a promotion?
Right.
This guy, like, this guy keeps on begging to be on this podcast.
We don't have to discuss that here.
Nah, we're gonna discuss it. It's gonna cut out. What's the timestamp?
Okay.
No, let's just leave it.
Let's just move on. Okay. So,
Yeah.
really quickly, I want to touch about this before the video is over. Previously, we have discussed the absolutely brain-dead take on Twitter that some radicals have made that math is racist.
That's so stupid, I swear.
It is.
Don't
worry, though. It gets worse. Now, it is being parroted by the Twitter trending tab, and not just like a normal thing. There's a active Twitter description written by, a Twitter dev or someone who works at Twitter, explaining the whole thing, and it is...
Can we get this read by an annoying voice? Like, just do an annoying voice of the fucking thing?
I mean, I don't know. I have a pretty annoying voice. You know.
Damn.
Hey, look, I own it, My voice is pretty annoying, especially when I rant on for hours. You know how it is.
Okay.
Alright, so I will read for all of you watching and here today the excerpt that Twitter has published in partnership with USA Today. Is math racist? As many studies of color students of color struggle with the subject, schools are altering instruction, sometimes amid intense debate. Recommendations to make math more inclusive have caused a rift in the worlds of math as an education. Opponents of the changes say the movement dumbs down the subject, but advocates say the subject's teaching is full of inequality and inequity. Then we had this absolutely gold response, which was made fairly recently, which says that it is no longer enough to be anti-racist. You must be anti-racist. Commit to ostracizing and exposing anti-racists, such as people who oppose CRT in schools, insist math is not racist, or hold equal standards for whites and people of color. Hashtag do the work better.
Be better.
For real. But of course, the best thing about this is it's a triple whammy. So it's CRT is good, actually. It's math is racist, actually. And POC are more special than white people, all in the same tweet. That's... Ow.
That's a world record right there.
Right?
It's gotta be.
Fucking social justice warriors speedrun any %. The category has finally been updated.
Yeah.
Nah, like
Shit's
sakes.
cringe.
No, we should just, like, ban math, because, like, who likes doing math, bro?
I agree. Fuck that.
Yeah, straight up racism, bro.
Wait,
Statistics.
does that make Mathway's anti-racism?
Bro, I cannot wait for Mathway's anti-racism, where you're allowed to cheat on tests, but only if you're black. Let's go!
But I mean, like, a lot of people's arguments with math is racism is fucking stupid because, especially earlier this year, or not this year, last year, when they were trying to say that statistics that were against their thinking were racist.
I mean, hey, soon enough, like, Mathway will be anti-racist. Black people have to use Mathway, right? Only black people.
Yeah.
And Asian people, every time they get a correct answer, I mean, they'll just have to be hit with the ruler. You know?
Just like old days.
We're going back
Just
to
like
the
old
ruler
days.
standard.
I mean,
Oh yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Gives me more of an excuse to hit people.
Nah, Sunny's just in it for the hitting people.
To be honest, that's my whole argument with the N-word thing. I just wanted to hit people. Especially my co-host. You know, that's the one time you'll hear me do a long rant or anything in this podcast is if it involves me hitting people.
Yeah, whenever it gives you an excuse to commit violence, it's based.
Well, honestly, yeah, so the only reason why I'm on this podcast.
You know what? I don't know. Looking at it from that, I guess that does kind of make sense.
Exactly, so, like, please, I invite you to say racial slurs to me so I can punch you. I'm joking!
I was so close. I was so close.
We should just, like, bleep it, and so it sounds like he said it.
Nah. Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that.
No.
You've done it to me before, so don't, please.
Have we? I don't watch these episodes. I kind of yeah.
Damn, you don't even watch your own podcast.
I don't. If you go to my YouTube, I don't. I mean, yeah, I do. To those viewers who are watching, I do. I love our podcast.
You love our podcast.
I love these rants.
Especially
and me doing my homework while he's in those rants.
The people who you like podcast with, like that's the best part.
Especially if I share my screen, I can show you that I'm not doing homework while on the podcast. Oh my god,
no way.
Also,
please do not share your screen. That would totally ruin the format.
Apple Podcast, please.
Apple Podcast. And
unban who?
Be heard.
We're thinking about moving to another platform or adding on another platform.
Oh.
Now,
yes.
What platform?
We're not gonna become SoundCloud rappers, okay?
Oh my god, no.
We're gonna be SoundCloud rappers, okay, guys?
I'd be completely okay with putting SoL.
Because I don't think that you have to pay to have more than one episode on there. On like Spotify. Go fuck yourself.
Spotify Premium moment.
Yeah.
That's why Spotify Premium is a scam.
It is.
Yeah.
You can go shove it.
It's not even you have to have premium. It's more like you have to go through this third party because you can only upload podcasts on a certain website, and then those podcasts like pretty much get streamed onto Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast. It's like you have to pay for that service. It's whatever. Anyways,
exactly. You know what? Exactly. I feel like we should do another police episode. Sure. Because, like, that one episode that, got fucked over because the FBI did not want us to upload it.
Damn. The FBI hacked my computer.
They legit hacked his computer, raided his home, and took all his belongings.
And the kids in the basement. I mean, what?
Except his furry suit.
Hey. You think I'd ever let them find that? Rather die.
Alright,
okay,
should we go to the next topic, or
I think we should skip to our last topic, which you really wanted to talk about, which is
amazing.
How about you introduce this one, Sonny?
Yeah. Alright, so as a fellow brown man, are they brown?
I don't think so.
Let me search Taz.
If they are, we don't know that it's the same type of brown.
It's Central Asian.
Central Asian is not like...
They're not white.
Like Hispanic.
I know they're not Hispanic. They're not white, but they're almost Filipino.
Well,
Filipino is just Asian Mexican. Oh god,
I consider them Asian Guatemalan
language. So I don't know if you
just because they speak a language does not mean shit.
I mean,
I can speak French. Does that make me white? Oh wait,
they are native to Russia. So
anyways,
I don't know if you would really call them.
There's dark Russians.
I mean,
sure.
Russian is kind of white, but it's just not the same. Like
now we're going to let's stop this right now. We're gonna go to another racial discussion. They're white, but not really white. Well, okay. When I say their facial structures are different, so they're not white.
I'm talking about like when I say really white, I'm specifically saying Western European white.
So you mean
that white people, like Caucasian.
Yeah, it's just go away from that for a second. Stop talking about skin colors for once. Anyways, Kazakhstan, big story. Biggest story so far. Bigger than the 6. Because they actually fucking did what our people who raided the capital wanted to do. So basically, in Kazakhstan, there was a lot of people protesting, and they protested so much that it caused their government to resign, and they burned down the Capitol building. Which, come on, USA, you're known to be fucking dumbasses and with guns to burn shit, but Kazakhstan beat us to it. Anyways,
this is completely, but yeah, you know what?
What?
Sure. I feel like we're completely lost somewhere, but
how you lost?
We're talking about Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. How you lost? If you need me to what are you lost on? I got these questions. Hit me up.
I literally have no idea what we're talking about. I just zoned out when you were talking.
Oh, now you know how I feel when you're in a rant.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see from last episode about the Lost Boys and the other people. Black Hammer.
You literally just zoned out when I started talking about
I did. So. I'm be honest with you. I did. I completely did. This is what
anarcho-communism is. And you just like, freaking brain. It just shuts off.
Yeah. Exactly. See, it's always in the last rant of the video.
Yes.
The last topic.
Where everyone is so bored and we just want to go home.
Exactly. So I think...
No. Yeah. We love doing this podcast. We
love it. That's why we do so much of it.
Yep.
Oh
shit.
All right.
Okay, so we officially passed the hour and a half mark on the raw recordings. So
I think that's all that I can say. Any opinions from KYKA who knows? We're talking about people who fucked over Kazakhstan.
Chao just accept it, and it is what it
is. Okay. So next time, America, do better and burn down the Capitol next time, just like these fuckers.
Bruh.
Oh no.
That was a joke for those who did not fucking get it, you dumbasses.
Imagine if we streamed this, dude, live. Holy fuck.
Yeah, good thing we're never gonna do that, right, boys?
Episode 25 is around the
wait. You never know. I think we conclude the episode, so this... Chao, if you would like to take us away.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, that was a little bit of a roller coaster, but I appreciate,
You know what?
You guys for being here.
Yeah,
I appreciate everyone for watching this. This is going to be a little bit of a low note, but I feel like, it might have been a little bit more relevant to last episode, but, we never really got a chance to talk about it, and also when we were recording and we didn't get the news yet.
I can't wait to put up our debate on YouTube. I feel like that's going to be really
I thought you were going to say TikTok. I was going to say you guys are still canceled on there.
Guys,
there's so much more left people on there.
I just wanted to tell the audience about what happened.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so my uncle died of coronavirus, I believe, either yesterday or the day before. I believe it was yesterday. He had previous complications. It was not just the virus, but it was, it was serious. We all had, a very personal impact from that whole event. And the reason why I'm bringing it up here is because, we had talked a lot about coronavirus in the past year. We've given the administrations a lot of criticism. We've had a lot of questioning and a lot of skepticism for the vaccine and for masking and for preparations. And I don't think that any of that criticism isn't warranted. I do believe that to stay vigilant as a populace, we must, question and be critical about what the people in charge tell us to do, quote unquote, for our own safety. That being said, I understand that, our viewer base is mostly right wing. And while I'm not trying to imply anything on you guys, I'm sure you guys are great, I do recognize that there is a significant portion of the right who do not believe that the virus exists, or that it is at all in any way serious, or that it's been fabricated, or that people die of other causes too, and COVID is just sort of a byproduct. And I'm saying all of this to sort of remind you all, in whatever way I can, that COVID is real. that there is something that is underneath all of the fluff from our governments and our institutions, and it is killing people, and it's real. And the vaccinations, even if they have a chance of helping you or your loved ones survive, it's arguably worth taking over the alternative, which is essentially just good luck. Because my uncle did not vaccinate at all when he got it, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily the cause as to why he died from it, but what I am saying is that there are a lot of moving parts, and in all of this confusion that still hasn't ended 2 years later, there's sort of this underlying idea that we've been locked down here for nothing. And part of that's true. But the reality of the situation is that this is real, and, this does affect you, even if you don't think it does. That was kind of a reality check for me. It was, a reality check for my parents, who were, hurt a lot more than I was. I was definitely devastated, but, they were closer, so... I didn't want to bring, the entire mood of the episode down. I just wanted to mention this because, we make a lot of controversial, things here about the coronavirus, but ultimately it is real. It is a serious thing that we should take seriously. And I kind of do have a little bit of a new perspective when it comes to precautions. Because ultimately, we should never sacrifice our freedom for safety. I still stand by that. But I do believe that if your freedoms are not being sacrificed, and if the small inconveniences, maybe not entirely small, but the inconveniences that you have to go through for your own safety, that are being advised or unfortunately pushed by, authoritarians, because that's just how we live in, right? If that kind of thing is going on, it is ultimately worth it to go through the trouble. Because if you don't, this thing could kill you. Or it could kill someone you love, and that is not fun. You do not want to go through that. I'm sure plenty of people watching this video have gone through something like that, and it's real. And I just wanted to mention that before we end it off, that we've never said that the coronavirus wasn't real and that it wasn't a serious issue and that doing something about it is somehow a bad thing. We just don't want it forced on anyone. I'm sorry, that kind of came out of nowhere. Just...
Yeah. All good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Alright, well, thank you everyone for watching this far. We're coming up on 25, which is seriously just amazing how I've been doing this for so long, and how we haven't absolutely torn ourselves to shreds over the smallest of disagreements like everyone else.
Nah, bro, what do you mean? Shoot. You all see last one, bro? I uppercutted you, and then nothing happened, and then I uppercutted him, nothing happened.
I'm just saying, yeah. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate my audience. Appreciate, all of our audience, and I like doing this. I like being here, and I want to do this for as long as I can. So... we might have a surprise for you next time we're on. It'll be a while. We need a break. But we'll be back, possibly in the month of January. And when we do come back, we'll probably have a little bit of something different for you. So, stay tuned. Check out our other social media when you're seeing this for clips and highlight reels or just little posts from us. we're gonna try to be more active on, I'm gonna try to be more active on the Twitter and stuff. So, if you want me to react to some post or something, at us. I'll check it out. And that's it. This is Sunny, do the thing.
This is Sons of Liberty, and
no. Individual, what? Remember?
Oh, this again? Not
yes,
again.
Every episode.
I'm Sunnyhawkeye, and these are my racist co-hosts, and this is us signing out. You're next, KYKA.
I'm a dirty D2 casual. I stream a lot on twitch.tv/KYKA_69.
Shameless plug.
He's a simp.
Please follow me there.
And I'm King Chao. Also, if you want to get in touch with us, with any of us personally,
No.
Add us on Twitter. That's the best way.
Yeah, add us on Twitter, and maybe you will find the secret, very, very, very special Discord link to my DMs, where I will flame you for disagreeing with me and then block you.
You can also DM us on Instagram, even though.
I won't check Instagram. That's their thing.
No, I trust you. I'll be there. I might look at it. Might respond. Probably won't.
Probably won't. I'll respond on Twitter though.
Yeah,
100%.
And TikTok, you can't DM people that you don't follow you back. So just watch it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, see y'all later. This is Sons of Liberty.
Bye.
Out.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Worry about leaving a better planet for our kids. How about leaving better kids for our planet? Entire generation offended at everything, getting mad that a human thinks all lives matter. We don't need black or white or left or right. What we need is common sense. We need balance. We're all in the same boat. Why you trying to make holes? If they sink, we sink. This is madness.